Hello everyone, welcome to our first lecture on medical microbiology and human parasitology. This is an experiment which was performed in the Hubei University of Science and Technology in China. This presentation is presented by me, Arthur-Nyamekye. Let's get straight to business. Now, our first thing we're going to talk about here is the life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica. You know, Entamoeba, amoeba, and all those organisms, or let me say parasites, they cause what we call amoebiosis or amoebic dysentery. Yeah. Now, the purpose of this experiment is to master the morphological characteristics of trophozoites and cysts of Entamoeba histolytica. Now, this is for those who are very well versed in Chinese language. Yeah. Now, the contents of the slide in the experiment that we made was to observe the slide specimens of Entamoeba histolytica by the microscope. So we are supposed to see the trophozoites and differentiate it from the cyst. Now, for the sake of remembrance, I'm going to give you some of the features that you're going to use to differentiate the trophozoites from the cyst. So let's move on. Entamoeba histolytica. Well, first of all, the parasite is very infective in a quadrinucleate cyst. That is to say, it has 4 cysts. So the parasite is first ingested by the individual or the host. Once the host takes in the parasite settles down in the stomach, and then in the stomach, from there, with food, the parasite moves on to the small intestine, the first part of the small intestine being the duodenum. Yeah, the parasite begins to undergo what we call excistation. It begins to remove the cyst. You understand? Now, with time, the parasite gets to a metacyst state because it has removed the cyst. Now it's a metacyst state, and then the parasite undergoes binary fission. So you can see there's binary. It was a quadrinucleate, but now you can see so many nucleus in it. Now, because of that, it becomes so many because of the binary fission. The cysts become so many. There are so many cysts, and these cysts contains nucleus. That's why we call them quadrinucleate. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4 cysts. But we call it quadrinucleate. Quadri standing for 4, and nucleate standing for nucleus. So each of these cysts contains what we call a nucleus. Now, the binary fission that undergoes here makes it gain so many contents in its cytoplasm. So you can see it swells enough that it has to burst. Now, when it bursts, when the cyst bursts, it releases what we call the trophozoite. You understand? It releases what we call the metacystic trophozoite. Now, this metacystic trophozoite becomes a trophozoite on its own. Remember here, it was what? Cyst. This so many cysts. You understand? So you can call it a polycyst. But we have here metacyst. Now, because of the binary fission that went on, metacystic trophozoite was released. Now, this metacystic trophozoite, each of them becomes what? A trophozoite. And the trophozoite goes on through the normal channel. It enters the large intestine. And then in the large intestine, you have to notice something that occurs here. At this very place, some of the trophozoites gain invasion, undergo invasion, whereby they leak out from the large intestine and spread into the blood. And once they get into the blood, they can reach the liver, they can reach the brain, they can reach the skin, and then they can reach the lungs as well. Now, at the liver, they causes what we call the liver abscess. And then at the brain, they can also cause a brain abscess. So these Entamoeba histolytica, you have to take very good note of them. Once they reach the liver, they can cause a liver abscess. The brain, they can cause a brain abscess. The lungs, they can cause a lung abscess, and then the skin, they can cause ulcerations, that's skin ulcers. Now those cysts that do not undergo direct and hematogenous spread, they move on through the large intestine. Is the ascending part of the large intestine. The descending part, here's the transverse part of the large intestine. To the descending part of the large intestine, you can still see this trophozoite. Now, the trophozoite becomes a precyst. And then from the precyst, the trophozoite gains one nucleus. So we call it a uninucleated cyst. Precyst, pre means before. You understand? It's getting back to the cystic stage. So once it gains nucleus, we call it a uninucleated cyst. Uninucleated cyst. And then it becomes a binucleated cyst. Binucleated means what? Two nucleuses. You understand? And then two nuclei. Yeah, two nuclei. And then binucleated cyst to a tetranucleated cyst, gaining forces. Now from there straight on to the direct channel, this cyst is released via the anus, either as a trophozoite in feces, which is seen in active infection, or as cyst in feces, which is seen in carriers and also in active infection. So this is just a summary of the life cycle of the Entamoeba histolytica. It's a mature cyst as a quadrinucleated cyst. It undergoes excistation, which we talked about here, and then it becomes a metacyst. Metacyst becomes a metacystic trophozoite. So we can see here, trophozoite. Now from there, it becomes a precyst. That's from here, straight on, trophozoite, straight on, becomes a precyst. That's what we're talking about here. And from a precyst, it starts to what? Gain the cystic stage back. That's what we talked about here. That's why we said precyst, before cyst. Now encystation goes on, and then it gains one nucleus to become a uninucleated cyst. That's the life cycle here. Uninucleated to a binucleated cyst, and then back to a tetranucleated, or what we call quadrinucleated cyst again. Yeah, and then it's released either as a trophozoite or as a cyst. And both of them is seen in active infection, but then the cystic stage is seen in feces, which are in carriers. So you have to take good note of that. So that's still the summary of the life cycle of the Entamoeba histolytica. Now let's move on to differentiation. You can see the quadrinucleated cyst looks something like this. And then when it gets to the trophozoite state, here you can make a very good differentiation between the trophozoite and the cyst. You can see here the cyst, the trophozoite has what we call the white blood cells, the WBC, but we don't see that in the precyst or in the cyst, any of the cysts. You can see a karyosome, the trophozoite, which is also seen in the cyst, precyst. You can see the karyosome also here, and you can see them here as well. Now we have the peripherals, which are here. Everything here is there, as well as it's here and here and here, but we don't have red blood cells in the precyst, but we do have them in the trophozoite. We have food vacuoles in the trophozoite, but we do not have them in the cystic form. So that is one differentiation you should know. Apart from that, you can see a glycogen mass in the cyst, but you don't see the glycogen mass in the trophozoite. So that's one differentiation. When you see the red stuff here, this part is a glycogen mass, but here this red stuff is an RBC, red blood cell. So that is it for the Entamoeba histolytica, and you can see here the uninucleated cyst. You can see it has only one nucleus. From precyst stage, it gained encystation to become a uninucleated cyst with chromatin bodies in it. where we cannot see chromatin bodies in the trophozoite and the procyst. And then the nucleus became 2, making it a binucleated cyst. So you can see from binucleated, it doubled again in its nucleus to become a quadrinucleate cyst again. And that is how the life cycle goes out each and every time. It goes about in a circular manner like that. So that is it. So now let's see under the microscope. This is how a uninucleate cyst look like. Uninucleated cyst, just one nucleus. You can see it here. Just as in the previous slide, you can see one nucleus. In the uninucleated cyst, one nucleus, and we have a thick chromatin body and a glycogen mass. The same thing here. Uninucleated cyst, one nucleus, thick chromatin body, yeah. Now, and the glycogen mass also. Now, binucleated cyst, you can see two nucleus looking circular in a way, circular in a way. You get it? Yeah, just like here, circular. And you have to know one thing about the nucleus. The nucleus here, just like the chromosome here, we have the peripherals, which are those black spots here seen in this drawing, and then the chromosome at the center. The same thing for this nucleus. You have the chromosome at the center, and then the peripheral chromatin granule also there. Peripheral chromatin granules, chromosome, peripheral chromatin granules, and the chromosome in the center. So you have to see the same thing here. You can't see the peripheral chromatin granules very well, but at least you can see a chromosome in the center. You can't see the peripheral chromatin granules very well. You can't see them very well, but you can see the chromosomes in the center. And then when you see the quadrinucleate cyst under the light microscope, you can see this quadrinucleate cyst looks like having lots of nuclei. And then mind you, these nuclei, so far as they are not 2 and it's not 1, sometimes you may not see it clearly, but you have to know it is a quadrinucleate cyst. Yeah. So that is it. You have to know the differentiation very well. A quick recap. The trophozoite has red blood cells, but the cysts do not have red blood cells. The trophozoite has white blood cells. The cysts do not have white blood cells in them. So you can see trophozoite white blood cells, red blood cells. Cyst, no white blood cells, no white blood cells, no white blood cells, no red blood cells, no red blood cells, no red blood cells. Yeah. And then the cyst has chromatin bodies. You can see them, but you can't see the chromatin bodies in the trophozoite. Now, one thing you have to note here is the trophozoite moves by its pseudopodium for locomotion. Yeah. And also, the trophozoite has white blood cells, just like I talked about. It has food vacuoles, but you don't see the food vacuoles in the cyst. So they note it very well. The blood cells are found in the trophozoite, not in the cyst. You get it? So that is generally it for the life cycle of Entamoeba Histolytica. Our next lecture we will talk about the life cycle of Giardia lamblia.